All right, sorry about that. I think we're getting the chief and chiefess. They're trying to join us, so we're gonna hear from them. Hold on, let me send this link to them. Let me send this link to them. So today is their New Year celebration, and they have taken the time out to join us. All right, so let me just see if I can get them on. Just bear with me, guys. Just bear with me. All right, Joshua, just let them know that I just sent them the link again, so they can join. I just sent it to them. Okay, they're here. All right, Chief, your camera is off and your mic is off. Your camera is off and your mic is off. Hold on.
The mic is on.
Testing.
All right, your mic is on, but your camera is off.
Let me see. That any good?
Yes. All right. So let me just welcome, guys. I'm gonna talk about that, Michael, but let me just pause. Chief Kasike Kalaan and Chief Kasike Kalaan and his wife, they are the chief of the Taino community here in Jamaica, and I wanted them to be on because so much to share with us. You know, I was of the belief that the Taino people were completely obliterated in Jamaica. You know, when I was talking to the chief's wife, she was sharing with me about what is called Paper Genocide. So tell us, Chief, how are you doing? I hear that today is your New Year celebration.
Yes, greetings. Usa no no da yukuno. Good night, my people. We just celebrated our Taino New Year, the start of the rainy season.
Okay. So it's a Taino New Year. I know you're busy because I know today is a celebration. Can you explain to us the concept of paper genocide and how it specifically relates to the Taino people?
Of course. So for us, we had two colonizers, the Spanish and the British. And there was a struggle and a period in which the British were trying to take over the island from the Spanish. And during that time, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So the narrative was put out of how the Spanish had killed off all of the indigenous people. When records showed that what the Spanish did is release the enslaved that they had, and those enslaved had the option to either join with the British or join with the Spanish. Some went to Cuba, some stayed and fought, some went into the mountains, some assimilated with Spanish women Spanish men with Taino women, and they went and created villages and tried to protect their families. So as a result of that, to continue that narrative of the colonizers against each other, it was recorded of how this genocide took place and our people were wiped out. And initially, the language was a lot looser. So it would say that Taino communities were destroyed, which they did destroy Taino communities. But eventually, the narrative changed from communities being destroyed to none left, to extinction, which is very drastic different meanings. We know that our communities became dispersed, and today we use the saying of dispersed, not disconnected, because we have found our way back together. So paper genocide for us is the
So you
process in
you
which through the census system they try to erase our people.
so you grew up in Jamaica. Where did you ever sit in a classroom
Mhm.
where you heard that the Tainos were completely obliterated, that they no longer exist?
Yes, it was said that the first people of the Caribbean were wiped out, not just here, but throughout the entire Americas, were wiped out by colonization, and that no one else existed. You know, it's that's what was taught in the schools, and it felt so wrong to me. You know, my spirit. I remember the day when I was in history class and I just walked out and dropped the subject. Realistically, you know, like it just didn't connect. And for my personal
Okay.
journey, you know, I learned over time and was able to understand what a lot of things more about my family. And it reached the level today where we have community members and different families that also honor their indigenous ancestry, their Taino ancestry.
Okay. So you were sitting in the classroom when you were hearing that you and along with your family members no longer exist.
Yeah, at the time,
What are some yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I was saying at the time, I didn't know that I myself had, you know, because in school they told us it was Arawak. Didn't know that I had Arawak or Taino ancestry. That was later on in life.
Okay. Okay.
But something in
So
me
how was the
was stirred.
misclassification or mhm. Yeah.
Or I
So,
was just
so
sharing
you
that
continue
something
to
in me was
search,
stirred
you
to
continue to push
look into
forward.
that more. Or repeat,
Mhm.
Ben?
Something cause you to want to push forward.
Okay,
So,
part
so
that
Michael,
wanted to push for. Hmm.
yeah, one of our listeners is saying I was taught that in primary school back in the 70s as well. So I was the only person that was being taught this. But how has the misclassification or the denial of the Taino identity impacted their access to health care and social services, or has it done that?
Slowly but surely, my brother. So there are customs and practices that
All right, so
used to be widespread, and now in the modern age, you know, there are legislations and rules and things that are being put in place under the intention of guiding and supporting communities, but it has really been breaking down a lot of our traditions. And today, we
okay,
look on mechanisms like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which speaks towards a level of autonomy in preserving our health practices and our traditions and our teachings and our wisdom. So I'll give you real life practical examples. Home births is a natural thing in our communities.
mhm,
But how the systems are set up now in Jamaica is that a mother cannot have an home birth. It's not supposed to. That's what they're saying for their first or their 10th child. So already, you know, there's a disconnect that is being created within our families and within our healing practices.
And we are saying that this is a right that indigenous people have. This is not just cultural, part of your culture, in terms of
Yeah.
home birth. How many persons do we have now are skilled, in our society in terms of delivering children?
Oh gosh, I
You
mean,
know,
we
we, we,
have
we see we
midwives, but
see
the
where.
reality of it, Ben, is that
Mhm.
the way that the students are educated now is if they have a cesarean section, the doctor can be home in time for dinner. So the whole process of natural birth, you know, it doesn't work alongside with how the young ones are being educated as it relates to healthcare. And that is
Right.
just one of many examples.
So we have used among animals. We are the only animals where birthing is not natural. It's considered to be a sickness where you have to go to the hospital. In all other animals, giving birth is a natural experience, a natural part of life. But we have turned it
Mhm.
into a situation where if a person is giving birth, they're required to go to a hospital. It's treated as a sickness.
Mhm.
You know,
Exactly.
and so and
That is
so and
direct
so
impact.
yeah, and so. Mhm. Yeah, and that's a very good so how can you share some traditional Taino health practices and how they have been preserved or revived in modern times? Are there some health practices um that you have still preserved in your community?
Yeah, so all right. So in our communities, one of the things that we practice is that we believe that plants have a spirit.
Hmm.
And because plants have a spirit, we don't only work with the medicinal properties of the plant, but the spirit of the plant as well. So what was interesting is that during the pandemic, you know, there was this big push for people to be using hand sanitizer to cleanse their hands and using things to cleanse the space that they're in because people were passing these viruses from one another. But in our ceremonies and our way of being, there are smoke ceremonies that we do. So there are specific plants, and it's in our belief the spirit of these plants represent cleansing. An example of one is like cedar, and we would burn this plant and we'd run it over our body and it cleanses us. And the science found out that it actually kills the bacteria that is in the air. So science today is really confirming a lot of the practices
Yes.
that our traditional elders have. So that is one simple one, and that is something that we do on a regular, and it helps with aromatherapy. It helps with, you know, those who are suffering depression. There are baths that you can take with these as well, and that is how we create a deeper connection to the spirit of the plant. There are
Right.
plants
What
that we
about
use for
sauna?
different things. Mhm.
What about sauna? We're talking earlier on the show about sauna. Within Taino medicine, is there any practice of the use of saunas?
Yeah, we have what we call like a kansi, which is once we set up the 1 hour, which is a place apart. There's a fire, and we use sacred medicines again. We use these plants, we call upon the energy and medicine of these plants, and we use the steam from those plants to purge ourselves of various illnesses. So that was another thing that, you know, in a simpler way that was recommended to community members during the pandemic. So a lot of steaming and inhaling of the steam of specific plants to cleanse the nasal passages and to cleanse bacteria that may have been building up around the throat. So these are things that we have always been doing. So when, you know, we say everybody adding different layers, so-called, of protection to what should have been a norm and a regular way of life. You know, the colonizers have records of how cleanly our people are on a whole. You know, baths and plants and these things is a regular staple in our life. And I think we overlook these things until big issues like that come up.
Right. So tell us, we know of a compound, we know of Moortown. Are there still vibrant Taino communities in Jamaica? And if so, where can we find some of these communities?
Well, our community, as I said, is dispersed but not disconnected. So we don't have a settlement, one specific space, We have families that are in different places and continuing and preserving their practices. So we're just coming from one of our spaces, which is Woodside in St. Mary, and there are other spaces in St. Mary too. There's also in Negril. There's also in St. Anne. There's also in areas of St. Catherine and Mandeville. And most of these are either the mountainous interior or fishing villages that still preserve our practices. There's communities in St. Elizabeth that they still have the practice of working with the saber, the cotton tree, and still have the practice of making canoes. We have an elder in our community that he holds that tradition. He learned it from his father and he still has his father's ads. So, we are dispersed and we're working on that communal space to preserve. Right now, we're focusing on our the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People and having our rights acknowledged so that we can alleviate the worries of some of our community members. It has been stated in our meetings within our community that one of the issues that they face is this fear because we don't have our rights, that once we start to accumulate in our sacred spaces, because there will be a connection to ancestral remains and ancestral artifacts, because we have communities members that are caretakers of these spaces, the government may want to come in and want to take over these things because there's still the narrative thought that we don't exist. So if we don't exist and we have these remains that are Taino remains and they don't acknowledge our existence and the connection we have to our family, then there's the risk of them wanting to come in and take these things and take these spaces and, put them under the rule of the government. So we're working on enshrining and instilling our rights to protect our people. And then that will allow more to feel comfortable in stepping up and openly sharing our spaces. But the protection have to be there first, brother.
Okay. So looking to the future, what are 4 hopes and goals for the Taino people in terms of health, cultural preservation, and recognition? What are 4 hopes you have?
Brother, today is a really sacred day for us because today we're celebrating 1,424 years of our ancestral inhabitation of this island from 900 AD, and we had a good turnout of community members. So we look towards the community growing internally. Yes, there's awareness that we're sharing with the public, but the 4 things I'd say is, 1, that internal awareness. There are still family members within each community member's family that work needs to be done for them to anchor and honor and preserve what they have, so that outsiders don't try to come and take it away or it's not sold by future generations. 2 is our acknowledgement of our rights. And through the acknowledgement of our rights, what will happen is that we will be able to better preserve, promote, and protect our indigenous teachings, because who better to look to in how to alleviate the issues from climate change than those who hold aspects of traditional teachings that have existed for centuries, that have been maintaining the island to this point. So that's 2. 3, I would say that, an open-mindedness, and that we would at some point be able to have this truth and reconciliation as it comes about the extinction narrative, that it would be written in the books and acknowledged our presence and our continuity and the contributions that we have made, not just to Jamaica, because Tainos on a whole, to different islands and different spaces in the world. When the cassava plant was carried to Nigeria, there were several cases of cyanide poisoning, and that didn't happen here because our ancestors have been here and have been teaching. You don't hear about those things in Jamaica, right? Because we know how to work with the cassava and how to work with the bami. And the 4th one I would say is that through avenues like you are creating here, my brother, that we'll be able to spread that awareness, that those who have heard the stories in their family will record their family stories, that we can have an archive for future generations, and we can come together to create something sustainable to not only support the Taino community that is here, not only the Taino community in the diaspora, but the world on a whole. We have prophecies that speak towards a return of indigenous ways of being and knowledge, and that from that we would usher in, it's not a utopia, but a shift in the consciousness and the minds of people of the world, so that we can live in harmony with the environment. And just the example I gave before, our awareness that plants have a spirit, acknowledging that shifts things. It deals with consent and permission when working with plants. It deals with something that we need to have this way of working with each other. So our philosophy, our cosmology, and our teachings is something that can benefit the whole globe. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to share about that today, and the start of our rainy season celebration, and hope that it has touched the hearts and minds of those out there, that it will spark their curiosity and they will value the teachings regardless of the heritage they carry. But remember your family stories, learn the stories of your great grandparents, and share those with the future generations. Honor your bloodline, and your bloodline will honor you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Before we go, one more question, but I'd love to ask you, can you give us your website address? I'm going to put that on the screen for persons who may want additional research on the Taino people or who may want to contact you. What's your website address?
All right. So it's www dot
Mhm.
YAMAYE GUANI.com. So
UA.
YAMAYE, we pronounce it Yami, Wani, GUANI.com.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to have that on the screen. So for persons who want to do additional research, that is the website address for the Taino peoples. You need to get more information on them. Um, one more question, Chief. How can non-Indigenous individuals and communities support the Taino people in preserving their culture, cultural heritage, and improving health outcomes? How can non-Indigenous people contribute?
Well, the first thing is to support those that are lobbying for the rights of indigenous people. Now, I know, at
Mhm.
time that this line of understanding will bring tension, but in reality, what we're asking for is the opportunity to preserve, protect, and promote the teachings that we have received, and to have the rights of any other person or civilization. And through that type of support, through educating, through communicating, through allowing us opportunities to speak for ourselves and to amplify our voices, that does so much in changing the hearts and the minds of others, so that when opportunities arise for there to be major shifts as it relates to policies and laws, we will have that support to have these things enacted. Our desire for our community, and I can say this because we've had these discussions throughout the community before amongst the different families, is that we will be able to preserve, protect, and promote our teachings, our way of being. And once the rights are there, then there's a freedom to share those with others. But right now, there's a lot of issues as it relates to academia and others claiming our things, our way of being, our artifacts. And when they do that, it really amplifies that extinction narrative. So giving us opportunities to speak up, to speak for ourselves, to share our ways, we really appreciate that. And we look forward to the impact that can come from us coming together as people, as inhabitants of planet Earth, and creating change and awareness for future generations.
All right. Thank you so very much, Chief. Thank you for taking the time out of your
My pleasure, brother.
we hope that
learn. Finish? Okay.
So sorry about that, guys. Want to thank Chief Kasike Kalaan for being on our live this evening. We know that he was extremely busy, but nonetheless, he took the time to be on. I want to thank him for the information that he shared, and of course, his information is on the screen where you can do more research about them. I want to thank you for joining us and for today's program. We're still a work in progress. I'm outside of Jamaica, so the internet is a little shaky here in Laos. But we hope to improve the quality as we go on. Want to thank him for Chief for being on, for taking the time out of his busy schedule in terms of being on today. I want to thank all of you also for being on. As I said, that our contact information is in the description. Check out the links in the description. Information is in the description of this link. New York and Florida is in the description. Please, guys, if you're in the Florida area and looking for a church, you're share from all right, guys. So there's Annalisa Mohammed is from Trinidad. Thank you for joining us, Annalisa. All right. So again, as I said, if you're from Florida, I'm looking for a location in the Fort Lauderdale area, Fort Lauderdale, and that is going to be June 17th to 21. If you know of a location, preferably a faith-based organization, I'd please let us know. We're going to be in New York from June 10 to 15. That information is in the description. So there's a form that you can fill out if you know of anyone that is sick, or of anyone. I'll be coming to share from Pastor Carol Hamilton's church over there in Brooklyn, in Bronx. Sorry. So please, share that information. Thank you again for being on. It was my absolute pleasure. There are segments within this 2-hour live, so we're going to be reposting the segments we're going to be reposting the segments from Monday to Thursday in this week. So it's going to be much more condensed, much more shorter for you to find what was of interest to you. Again, I want to thank you. I hope that you liked. I hope that you subscribe. We want to grow this channel. We want to get the information there out. So please join us again next week, Sunday at 7. If you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe and share so that you can This is Dr. Ben Israel saying, have a wonderful evening and looking forward to seeing you next week, same time. Bye-bye.